Let's begin the conversation in Nigeria, where the Arewa Consultative Forum has kicked against the planned relocation of the headquarters of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria and some departments of the Central Bank of Nigeria from Abuja, that's the nation's federal capital territory, to Lagos State, describing the move as a deliberate plot against the northern region. Now, Jide Ojo, a public affairs analyst, joins in from Abuja to discuss this. Thank you so much for your time, Jide Ojo.
It's my pleasure, Dr. Happy New Week.
All right. Happy New Week to you too. Now, let's start off with this. The reaction by the organization saying, robing it around some sort of agenda against the northern region. I would like to know your immediate reaction to that.
I think my own reaction would be that there's no smoke without fire. This issue came out during the campaigns ahead of last year's general elections, where it was insinuated that if Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu wins, he is going to relocate the Federal Capital Territory back to Lagos 32 years after. And this was debunked by Mr. Bayo Ononuga, that nothing of such is being contemplated. However, the recent moves by the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Minister of Aviation in relocating Federal Aviation, Federal Airport FAAN to Lagos, as well as some departments in CBN to Lagos, is a worrisome development. Even though I'm from the southern part of Nigeria, I think the presidency of Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to be very careful of public perception of his government. If care is not taken, this will create a wedge between north and south, given the fact that, what's so spectacular about having FAAN in Lagos? They are saying, oh, because there is high level of traffic, there are shortages of offices, but there is vast landmass in Abuja, quite undeveloped, and we know that the northern part of Nigeria is facing developmental challenges, so much so that it is believed that even if we are able to bring banditry and insurgents under firm control, it may take about 50 years before the north will catch up with the southern Nigeria. We know that Lagos is congested, so the excuse of having shortages of offices as the alibi for taking the FAAN back to Lagos is not tenable, in my own opinion. And we should be very mindful of Section 14 sub 3 of the Constitution, which talks about federal character for national unity and national loyalty. And federal character is not just about appointments, it's also about citing of offices. So situations where, as we are told, under the presidency of Obasanjo between 1999 and 2007, we learned that Nigerian Port Authority was relocated from Abuja back to Lagos, as well as National Institute, NIA, International Institute for National Institute for International Affairs, which was previously in Lagos, were relocated back to previously in Abuja, relocated back to Lagos. This is very disconcerting. And like I said earlier on, the presidency of Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to rein in his ministers about relocating some already established, agencies in northern Nigeria. We know that the north needs as many of these agencies to enhance its own development much more than the south would do.
Okay, let's leave the old, what I call it, tribal stroke regional, narrative that the association is whipping its, will I call it, reaction around. Let's look at the reasons itself. You've mentioned some. Now, in a statement by the CBN, for instance, it said this is to notify all staff members of the CBN head office that we have initiated a decongestion action plan designed to optimize the operational environment of the bank. Now, this initiative aims to ensure compliance with building safety standards and enhance the efficient utilization of our office space, end of quote. But what I want to pick here is the operational environment, right? So let's look at it from this way. Now, we know that Lagos is the commercial nerve. We know Abuja is the capital of Nigeria, but Lagos is the commercial nerve center of the country too. Many of these banks that the CBN interfaces with have their head offices in Lagos. If you also go to the aviation sector, many of the people that patronize, these flights, quite a number of them come from Lagos. They are coming in, they're coming through Lagos. They are going out, they go out through Lagos. Many of them. So when you look at all of this in terms of operations, right, quote and unquote, wouldn't you also want to say that maybe the federal government had a cogent reason to make this move?
Sincerely speaking, I wish I'm persuaded by what you have just read, but I'm not. In 21st century, operations are done virtually. I hope I'm making sense. Or like in those days when files are pushed from one table to the other, if you have a Outlook email, you can give directives, you can operate. People are working from home.
Okay, I would allow you land, and then I would still want to puncture that, but please go ahead.
No, what I'm telling you is that a lot of people now work from home because of the ICT infrastructure, which has made even physical offices very unnecessary. So if you want to decongest, what are you decongesting? I live in Abuja. I know that CBN had an edifice that's of international standard here. And there's nothing that says it cannot have an annex office in Lagos, but relocating, its head office, as the case with FAAN, is untenable. There's nothing that says you cannot have a branch office in Lagos. Many of the financial institutions that you are talking about, yes, they chose to have their office in Lagos. But I tell you for free, in years to come, many of them will see the need to even move their operations out of Lagos. Because when you look at what the workers in Lagos go through to get to work and to come back from work, the man hours that are lost in traffic, you will find that Lagos is congested. And like I said, with ICT, you can run offices from anywhere in the world. From Australia, you can run an office successfully in Nigeria through the internet. There are so many devices, software that can help you to have an e-business, e-commerce, whatever. So I am of the considered view that, you see, you need to be politically correct. Sometimes citing offices, as we know, may not be economically sound, putting an office somewhere. But when you look at the political correctness, and if Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu intends to run for second term, he needs to watch it, because these are things that the northern Nigeria will count and say, oh, this man that want to Southernize, we were all clamoring against Buhari, that Buhari was trying to northernize Nigeria. Everything is cited in the north. We know how many University of Transportation was taken to Daura. We know how many universities were created that are unnecessary. We have University of Nigeria Army in Biu, in Borno State, which are quite needless. So we cannot continue in that tradition that once I'm in power, I must do things to favor only my people. And this is why I'm warning Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu, that in case he wants to run for second term, he should know that he's owing the North a lot of debt. When Lagos did not
So are you
vote
saying
massively
that
for him,
as
when Osun State
against,
did not vote
are you saying
massively
that for
him,
political
the North
reasons,
voted for him.
are you suggesting or insinuating that for political reasons, and that's also for the sake of the president's maybe a political second term in office, he should actually, just play to the gallery and just, follow the status quo as against what is required?
Wait. He's not playing to the gallery. I don't agree with you on that. These buildings, these offices are already in Abuja. Let them be. You can then think of establishing new ones in southern Nigeria if you so wish. But to relocate, that is the head office of CBN I'm seeing on your screen. That is an office that is world-class, cosmopolitan, that you can run this, you can run the economy of Nigeria from anywhere. I'm just against the political correctness of these actions. That I'm not a politician anyway. I do not hold any political offices. I don't intend to contest. But I'm saying Section 14 sub 3 of the Constitution talks about federal character, which should be observed both in appointment and in citing of offices. If President Tinubu wants to establish new offices, he can influence it by taking it to Lagos, to Osun, to any other place. But that one will be starting from the scratch. But to now start relocating under the guise that, oh, Lagos has the highest number of, highest volume of traffic, what is FAAN doing? FAAN is just a regulatory agency. FAAN is not the one manually operating the airport. It's not like you are doing manual operations now. In fact, in the other parts of the world, the whole airline operation is computerized. So people are talking of smart businesses, compact businesses. So this whole idea of we are short of offices, so we want to take this FAAN back to Lagos. If you read the statement of Arewa Consultative Forum, that professor also did mention some of those things that are already in the pipelines for which is asking Tinubu to exercise caution. So, like I said, there's no smoke without fire. And I just wish Asiwaju well, but he needs to really, really get his politics right, because, politics and economy goes together. The idea of, Lagos is the economic nerve center of Nigeria does not hold water. You can run the economy, you can run it.
I mean, you've made a salient point concerning, businesses going digital or virtual. But we're also seeing in reality where many of these people, well, unfortunately, that, are in key positions in many of those agencies and departments are not digitally, literate. Some of them might not even know how to operate gadgets. And so it still goes back to, way billing files, which will take days, sometimes weeks before approvals. And then you have bureaucratic bottlenecks. I'm coming at something. So I think, in business, right, you rather want to be close to your resources, right? You want to be close to your customers. For instance, if I'm just giving a scenario, you have the aviation agency in Lagos. You have a lot of flights that leave Lagos. It's easier, should there be issues to resolve, to just move from, office to office than having to send a mail or a file to Abuja and then wait for days. I'm just looking at the operational ease, in all of this. So I would like to know your reaction to that, and also on the fact that maybe let me get your reaction to this, and then I'll move to another issue.
I know that you are playing the devil's advocate, but like I said, if the excuse is that the workers are not ICT literate, they should train them. You need to train. You see, You cannot shy away from the rest of the world has moved on. We have been left behind by over 20 years. What I'm saying is that all those arguments you are putting forward can be punctured by one thing. Digital literacy is a must for everybody. Digital literacy is a must. Whether you are even going to university to study Yoruba or you are studying arts, everything is digitized. Look at the banking solution. In years gone by, we used to go and take tally number at the banks so that you can get your 5,000, 10,000. Today, in the comfort of your room, you can do online banking, you can do internet banking, and in fact, I can't remember the last time I've gone to my bank because whether I want to deposit, whether I want to move money, I do it digitally. There are POS operators and all of that. That is you cannot run away from digital, economy. And if you are doing digital economy, the same argument you put forward, if you don't teach, train your staff to embrace digital solutions, even if they are in Zamfara, they will still have to go to Lagos to resolve issues that can be digitally, resolved. They will still have, even if as they go to Lagos, they will still have to move file from one point to the other. But the best thing is to invest in the computerization and digitization of the operations of this, whether you are talking of central bank or you are talking of FAAN.
Sorry, Jide, I just want to ask, but do you think that Nigeria, as we are right now, have we gotten, to that optimal digital level where everything works seamless? Sometimes even just to have virtual conversations, we know the strength of the networks, right? So I just want to know your take.
Therefore, I'm still maintaining. Where am I talking with you from? In years gone by, I would have had to go physically to your studio in Abuja. In years gone by, there is nothing like virtual Zoom or Skype or all these tech solutions. I have to train myself. I have to embrace digitization. That's why from the comfort of my office, from the comfort of my home, I can link up. There are meetings holding on Zoom. There are decisions, so many things. The advantages are just too numerous. You cannot run away from digitization. You cannot run away from computerization. And any of your staff that is not digital compliant, they have to be trained. Either they have to train themselves or the office can sponsor them for training so that they can brace up for 21st century operations. But to say that you need more physical offices, when in the period of COVID-19, you are alive and I'm alive. We all knew that many schools that embraced ICT were able to continue to hold lectures with their students, even when they were at home. They did the exam from the comfort of their home. But many schools who are running away or who did not brace up for digitization, they had to lose about 8 months before they resumed school. Many lost 1 year. So at the end of the day, today you have universities that are operating virtually. And people are getting their bachelor's degree, they are getting their master's degree, they are getting their PhD. So you cannot run away from digitization. The issue of network and the weaknesses, all we need to do is to invest more. Either government invests more or the private sector is enabled, is licensed to have a higher strength of network. Today we have 5G. When the internet came in 2001, we were talking of 2G network. It ran for about a decade. Then we have 3G network. In the last 5 years, we've been having 4G.
So we're talking of 5G.
Today, there is already 5G network. And I can tell you that before the end of the year, there might be 6G network. So
I mean, we know,
what we are
okay,
saying
I
is
mean,
that,
well taken. I mean, you've established the point that digital literacy is key, but let's also look at another angle of this particular scenario right now. According to the associations too, they said that they faulted at the recent, appointment in the Ministry of Aviation, where only 8 of 40 directors recently appointed are from the North. I would like to know your reaction to that, vis-a-vis also the fact that maybe this move is also might also be to shake up what I would call the bureaucratic blockade, within the system. What do I mean? If you ask an average Nigerian, I'm not aware, I don't think I've ever seen a CBN employment advertisement. I've been out of school as a graduate for years, and I don't think the CBN has put out an ad to say, okay, we are taking in fresh graduates. I would like, if anyone has seen, should let me know. But I don't think I've seen such. Maybe for FAAN too, right? And one would ask a question, are these people not retiring people? Are they not absorbing graduates? What's their form or their style of recruitment? So don't you think also blockades like this, to shake it up a bit so that the system can move from just being a civil service oriented system to a functional operation one that is target oriented and result oriented? Don't you also think this kind of move is designed for that?
Again, let's be very factual with these things. You see, sometimes there is what is called tragedy of good intentions. Everybody is the whole essence of politics is about interest, and you cannot, in good conscience, tell me that out of 40 directors, only 8 are good enough to come from a whole northern Nigeria with 19 states. This is not reflective of the federal character principle. Again, Section 14, sub 3, paragraph 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic speaks to this, that there shall be no preponderance of appointment from any part of the country. For purposes, 2 purposes were cited by the Constitution, except for national loyalty and national unity. And you cannot fault that. I mean, you and I don't know whether you were in the fray. I have been in the advocacy against Buhari's clannishness. When appointments were majorly made to suit northern Nigeria, I was one of those who cried out and said, this is not the kind of president we want. You cannot in good conscience say that in a shake-up, out of 40 directors, only 8 are good enough to come from Nigeria. That is against the letter and spirit of Section 14, subsection 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic. And that is why I'm saying, yes, it may, the issue of shake-up, of blockades and all of that, recruitment and all of that, yes, it will take a while for us to have new generation of staff taking over from the old cargos. The good news is that there is now a civil service policy that says, as a director, you cannot spend more than 8 years maximum. You first get 4 years, and if you are good on your job, you get additional 4 years. That circular has been out since last year. I recall that I wrote in my column in the Punch on this. So I think with time, there will be fresh recruitment into these agencies, departments, and ministries. But we need to be very careful, the kind of image, the kind of message. Perception is very key in governance. Perception is very, very key. If there is a perception that you are marginalizing a section against the other, then you are causing trouble. The whole indigenous people of Biafra's agitation is premised on the fact of marginalization. They said the Igbos are not allowed full political participation, in that there is no Nigerian since 1966 that no Igbo leader has been president since 1966. And also they cited the location of some of the federal projects. And that's why, Buhari strenuously tried to ensure that he completed the second Niger bridge just to calm free nerves and do some of the southeastern routes. But you know that IPOB, up till now, Nigeria is yet to unravel the whole conundrum around that. But I'm just telling you that this is part of the reasons why people embark on rebellion, on agitation, when there is a perception of marginalization and discrimination. And Tinubu administration should eschew this. It should know that he may need it not again in another 3-4 years. And they will remind him of all that he has done in his presidency. So he should just calm down and allow those offices that are already in Abuja or Northern Nigeria to stay. If they want to establish fresh one, they can take it to any other part of the country. And they should just ensure 3 things: equity, justice, and fairness.
Okay, I'm going to stay with you on.
Are very key.
I will stay with you particularly on equity. What would you consider equity when it comes to the, permit me to use the word, sharing formula that you feel would favor, every region of the country?
Did you know? Let me answer you. Let me answer you rhetorically. Do you know that the whole essence of having a bloated cabinet was because of equity? That's why Section 147 sub 3, second paragraph says that a minister, the president shall appoint a minister, and the president shall appoint at least a minister from every state, so that there is equity in appointment. But you can see what President Tinubu did in implementing that constitutional provision of Section 147 sub 3, second paragraph. He decided to now favor the South, favor some states at the expense of the other. For instance, he appointed 3 ministers from Ogun State. He appointed 2 from Lagos. He appointed 2 from Cross River. He appointed 2 from select states. But the entire Southeast, if you follow through the screening and confirmation of ministers, there was a time the Southeast bloc in the Senate, revolted and said, "Look, Mr. President, you are unfair to us. You only appoint one. You only appointed one per each of the 5 states."
Just to ask you, so where does competence come in all of this? Because if the president right now is on hot seats because there are a lot of burning issues that he needs to resolve at the quickest time, and I think for the president, it's more about who can get the job done at the shortest possible time, as against where you are from. So I just want to know how you advise the president balances this.
The president knows what to do to balance. He has been governor of Lagos. Before I forget, let me quickly cite an example. When Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu submitted the initial list of commissioners in Lagos State to the Lagos State House of Assembly, did you remember that the Lagos State House of Assembly rejected and only confirmed just few out of the members? Why did they reject many of the other members of that list? They said, look, there's no equity here. This is predominantly made up of Christians. And the Muslims challenged Governor Sanwo-Olu and said, look, we all voted for you. We voted for you. Why would you give us 7 out of 25 commissioners? And until when he went back and readjusted the list, that was when there was peace. You recall that there was that face-off between Speaker Obasa and Governor Sanwo-Olu when the issue of commissioners in Lagos were nominated. That's just to tell you, this is even a Yoruba-speaking state with 2 head of the 2 arms of government being Yoruba, but they still was trying to do some balancing act to ensure that there is no preponderance of one religion or one ethnic or one tribe against the other. So the balancing act has to be done. What it means is follow equity, justice, fairness. Whatever that they will do to you that will not that you cannot tolerate, don't do it to other people. And you know what that means. I'm not saying that in all material particular that we should go on appointment spree and just load the civil service or agencies with deadwood. So your question about competence, you can find competent people from every part of this country, from every religion in this country. You can find competent people, whether you are talking of Yobe State or you are talking of Zamfara State. There are competent individuals from those states. And you cannot say that it's only the South that are enlightened, that are knowledgeable, that have gone to school. You need to listen to some Northerners talk. You will be impressed. Look at Delali, the guy that was doing car design from, is it Ford Motors in US, that was brought by the Buhari administration to head the Nigeria Automotive Council. You know, the guy is from the north. We have so many brilliant Northerners that unless you search, you will not find. But I tell you for free, competence run in every state, among every tribe, among every religion.
All right, Jide, thank you so much for your time and contribution. Jide Ojo, Public Affairs Analyst from Abuja. Once again, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Do have a great week ahead.
And you too. Of course, we'll go on a quick break now. When we return, we will be going this time around to Sudan, where something is really brewing. Stay with us.
Thank you so much for having me again. I'm happy to be once more with you.
Yes, thank you once again. Now, interesting time, you'd say, between Sudan and IGAD. I would like to know your immediate take on the move by Sudan to actually suspend its membership.
I think that is an error on the part of the general, because IGAD is there for the region, and the region is there for its members. And the purpose of IGAD as a regional organization is not just for development, but also for governance issues. And as such, it has been involved in a number of peace processes, including that which resettled Somalia. We now have a functioning federal government in Somalia. We also had the Sudan, South Sudan separating from the main Sudan, which was also facilitated by IGAD. And as such, IGAD has a lot of experience in the region to mediate and also engender a resolution of such conflicts. So to me, it is because the general feels that maybe he has an edge with other brokers, namely in the Arab North and the main Arab Peninsula, that he thinks that perhaps by being mediated by IGAD, he may not be favored, which is actually erroneous.
All right, now let's look at the reason given. Now, the government had announced this week that it was freezing its relations with the bloc in advance of a meeting in Uganda on Thursday after it invited the RSF head, that's Mohammed Abdan Daglo. It accused the bloc of violating Sudan's sovereignty and setting a dangerous precedent. Do you think that the president must have felt undermined due to the fact that his rival was invited for a meeting and maybe not him?
The meeting was very specific. It was an extraordinary summit meant to discuss and help to resolve the impasse between the two warring parties. And that is the general himself and the RSF chief. So the agenda was very clear and the invitation was very specific. And as such, inviting him alone, it would not have made any sense. In any case, this was not the first time the two had been invited by the IGAD forum. It happened before in Djibouti and other fora. So I think that is just an excuse because there's no way they would have invited one party when they were trying to resolve issues pertaining to the two parties.
Do you think the general must have some sort of agenda, you know, aside all of this obvious rhetoric that we know?
Yes, I think because two reasons are very possible. One is that Amit has been moving around the region in terms of diplomatic engagement, with the regional member states, which include Eastern Africa, but also Central and Southern Africa. A tour that must have this had problems with him. The other one is that he has been also shopping intervention from the north, which is Egypt, and also Saudi Arabia. So I think that he has more comfort with Egypt and Saudi Arabia, where he thinks they may favor him. And yet IGAD is looking at an objective and neutral outcomes of these engagements.
Now, looking at the turn of things, do you see an end to this conflict anytime soon with this move by the Sudanese general now?
Actually, this deepens the problem. It looks like the end is yet to come because the two sides now are deepening in terms of their positions. And if they've been shopping around interventions from various places, which include actually Africa and also the Middle East, and also includes the America. And now they seem to be very selective. If that happens, then resolution is much far away than what we think. And yet, unfortunately, the suffering of the population on the ground, the civilians, the displacement, the death toll are rising day in, day out. So really, it is a very unfortunate development.
Now, of course, we understand that throughout the conflict, both sides have been accused of war crimes, including indiscriminate shelling of residential areas, torture, and also arbitrary detention of civilians. Now, with this move by the general, what do you think will happen in terms of all of these allegations, humanitarian allegations and catastrophe, that have been levied against them?
I think the situation will remain as it is for a while until when other decisions are taken. For example, it looks like since both sides have not reached a mutual hurting stalemate, they think they're very strong, they're going to win. They will maintain the tempo of fighting, which is the most worrisome. But I also think that the region may have to make a decision to weigh in one way or the other so that we stop this suffering of the population. Either we create a corridor for humanitarian intervention for purpose of those who are victims of the war, or that we wait until one of them wins, which actually is the most painful thing we can ever do as a region.
What other avenues do you think can be explored to sort of compel the actors to a round table, particularly the Sudanese arm, that's the government?
I think we need to bring in or rein in other key supporters of the two groups. We know well that the Arab Emirates are very strong supporters of the RSF. We also know that Saudi Arabia and Egypt are very strong supporters of the Sudan Armed Forces General. I think we need eagerness to bring them on board, and also to bring in some other very strong third parties like the America, who are very strong shadow that can perhaps bring the two parties to bear. So I think that's the next take in terms of diplomacy. The third one is to see how we can engender or bring in a third force, a military force, to cause the parties to realize that there is need to talk. Because at the moment, since each one of them is very confident and they don't mind about the suffering of the people, this may not come to an end very quickly.
All right. Do you think that the suspension of Sudan's membership with the group sort of waters down and weakens the influence of the bloc, particularly on the region?
No, it does not, because in any case, the immediate grouping that has been very active and seized on the matter is IGAD. And IGAD, as immediate regional members, are already feeling the heat because the issues of the refugees who are flowing into the region, the issues of the movement of arms that are coming into the Sudan through the parts of the region or neighboring the region, becomes a critical concern for the region. So I don't think that the region will just stand by and just watch. When it comes to humanitarian intervention, it is about the international community taking a decision to do so, not necessarily on invitation.
So what avenues do you think the group will explore now?
As I said, the first one is to continue a further stretch of diplomatic engagement, particularly with those who are seen to be supporters, who may weigh in more greatly into the two groups in the Sudan. That's one. The second one is to see whether we can use either the African Union or the United Nations, whether the region can weigh in militarily so that we can create or bring to an end faster of the suffering of the people.
I mean, talking about the suffering of the people and its toll, particularly on bordering states or countries around the region, what do you think, particularly, border states, neighboring states, can do to sort of, what I call, appeal to the general to soft pedal and, of course, have a roundtable with the rival group? Because looking at it right now, I can see that the number of casualties so far, about 13,000 people have been killed in the conflict, according to a conservative estimate. And that's to tell you that that's quite a huge number. So I would like to know what you feel, neighboring states can do to sort of help, mediate in all of this.
Well, maybe the third option, other than the current diplomatic route that I just proposed, would also mean the other region organizations. We have the Arab League that may also weigh in. We also have the Northern Africa capability, which is part of the African standby.
Most of the time, these regional groups just stop at sanctions. Do you think that is enough?
It may not be enough. Sanctions may not work well because these groups are using very irregular means to access arms and be able to exert more suffering on the people. So the sanctions may not be very, very effective at the moment.
All right, now let's look at, of course, the influence of, external bodies, particularly influence of the United Nations in this particular conflict. We know that right now quite a number of issues are happening globally, and it looks like conversations and attention is sort of meandering. We know that there is the war between Russia and Ukraine, and there is also the Gaza Strip, where you have Israel versus Hamas. And we also have the Sudanese crisis, which has been on for quite a while. It seems the United Nations seems overburdened with many of these issues happening. What do you think, aside the measures you've mentioned, you talked about the diplomatic means, you talked about humanitarian means and all of that. What other avenues do you think can be explored, particularly by a body like the United Nations, to sort of facilitate peace, a ceasefire, and also further help the humanitarian casualties there?
Yes, you're very right. The UN, particularly the UN Security Council, may make a decision to ensure that humanitarian intervention is done under Chapter 7+, in which case we could have a military force come in to separate the two sides and create a corridor for humanitarian assistance to access those who are displaced and those who are suffering at the moment. But the other one also is that we could, of course, we need to have multiple approaches where we can identify those who have very significant influence. As I said, on the part of the RSF, we can bring on board the Arab Emirates, and also bring on board Egypt and Saudi Arabia on the other side of Sudan Armed Forces, to see whether they can, as individual states, bring some force onto them to bear so that they can agree. Unfortunately, whereas this may be wished that way, the externalization of these groupings that are giving support to them are actually deepening the differences, in which case both parties believe that they are strong enough and being supported by those different groups, and therefore they cannot agree to agree because either side, for example, we have the geopolitics of Middle East where Egypt and Saudi Arabia are on one hand, and then the Emiratis and others are on the other. So it makes it almost very difficult. So to me, not to complicate the answer to your very simple question, is that the region is the most suitable in terms of understanding the situation and helping the parties. What we need is the buy-in of those external actors. And I think other than the AU Peace and Security Council, whose recommendation may be supported by the United Nations Security Council, we could see whether we cannot mix track 1 and track 2 to something different so that we have much more pressure on both parties. Military means to also weigh in one or the other to cause them to see the need to negotiate.
All right, Simeon Mulongo, security analyst and consultant, Emans Frontiers from Kampala, Uganda. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you indeed.
All right, and that's a wrap on the show today. It's important we also state that the opinions and views of our guests remain theirs and not that of News Central. My name is Dakpo Adigboye. Bye for now.